What is up, IDP Army? Welcome to the IDP Army Podcast, where we're talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football. It's your man, Jordan Rains, at 50 Shades of Drunk on Twitter. Senior writer over at Dynasty Nerds. Check out the Nerd Herd, repping the set over there. Love my people over there. Love that. What's up, y'all? I'm back again. I'm going solo tonight. It's going to be real talk. The truth about defensive backs in 2020. We are going to break down the top defensive backs, your DB1s on the season tonight. Be sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/the IDP Army. Make sure if you are watching on YouTube, you like, you subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me who surprised you in this list, who you expected to be here that was not, who you think is going to get up here next season. So, appreciate y'all, like I said, showing up. Follow us also on Instagram at the IDP Army. Follow on Twitter at the IDP Army. And yeah, follow my man Steve. Follow my man Caleb. We're out here doing things for the IDP Army. Appreciate y'all. So I don't really have any news. Not really going to break down any injuries or anything. We're going to just hop right in today with the defensive backs. The number one defensive back of the 2020 season was probably not going to come as a surprise to anybody. It was my man, Budda Baker, coming in at number one, played 15 games this season, fifth season in the NFL, came through with 18 impact plays, 90 solo tackles, and 2 interceptions. Kind of the highlights here, 279 fantasy points in IDP 1-2-3 scoring. Another big season in the solo tackle department. He came through with 90. Last season, he led the league with 104. Which is a big feat from the safety position, obviously. That's what he's most known for. He's not, when you think about Budda Baker, you think the big plays because he did have the big interception this year on primetime of Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf running him down the field. That's where your head goes. And you think of him as a big impact player, but 18 impact plays is a career high for Budda Baker. So he's trending up, but he traditionally gets most of his points in the tackle department. I'll show you guys that here real quick. So if you IDP 1-2-3 scoring here, you can see he has 180 of his points came from solo tackles. That's 66%. Then he has another 28 points in the assist department. So the impact plays he did have were mostly pass deflections. 6.7% of his points, 18 points total there. Tackles for loss only 14. So I guess that means he had that's seven total in IDP 1-2-3 scoring. Just double checking that. Only 3 quarterback hits, so he doesn't rush the passer. Most of his impact plays are going to be in coverage. Hence the pass deflection numbers and the interceptions. The 2 big interceptions he had this season, back-to-back weeks, are only 2 interceptions he has in his career. So kind of crazy there. But, going forward, he is a tackle monster. Like I said, he led the league in combined solo tackles last season, was way up there again this season. So Budda Baker, being a young stud in the NFL right now, he's in my top 3. I think he's my defensive back 2 right now, and overall behind Jamal Adams, who on a points per game basis, just pretty much blows the competition out of the water. Not throwing any shade at Budda Baker, but he had a great season. Love to see that from him. The number 2 defensive back on the season was Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer coming through with a smooth. How many tackles did he have total here? 91 solos. You think of Jordan Poyer being traditionally a little bit more of an impact player. And that's what he traditionally is. Since coming to Buffalo, in the 4 seasons he's been in Buffalo, every year he's set career highs in his tackle numbers. But each season since coming to Buffalo, his impact play numbers have gone down steadily. So while you think of him as being an impact player, that's really not the truth of what happened this season. As you can see here, 66%, 67 essentially in solo tackles on his points. And that's for anyone following along on YouTube. If you guys are listening to this on the podcast, check out the YouTube channel. You're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck. This is free, so you're welcome. So then assist, a lot of points there. Not a whole lot in the impact play department. A couple of interceptions, a handful of pass deflections, looks like 5 there, 2 sacks. But these are his impact play totals the last 3 seasons. 15 this year, 16 last year. 2018 he had 23, in 2017 he had 26. So his impact plays are trending down, his tackles are trending up, the points are staying pretty consistent. Something to monitor though with him, but it does bring a little credence to the idea that maybe if he gets his impact plays back up, You could be looking at a guy who now has a much higher tackle floor than we're traditionally used to with Jordan Poyer. And he's only 29. You think 30, 29, 30 is so old, but we're going to get to a guy later on this list just shortly here who is 33 and finished as a top 6 defensive back. So, old is a relative term, especially for the safety position. Guys kind of stay there, can hang out there a little bit longer traditionally. So we are going to go ahead and move on down the list. Number 3 on the season this year was Malcolm Butler's, his 7th season in the NFL, playing for the Tennessee Titans this year. He kind of slotted into that role that Logan Ryan had last year. You'll remember Logan Ryan was the number 1 overall defensive back last season. Logan Ryan did do a little bit more as far as impact plays. He had a couple of sacks last season, some big interceptions. But Malcolm Butler did hit his previous career high in interceptions here. He had 4 this season, I believe. Was it 4? Yeah, 4 interceptions this season. A lot of pass deflections, which is something that Logan Ryan had a lot of last year. But really, the tackles, playing this hybrid corner safety role, he ended up with 100 combined tackles, which blew his previous career high of, I believe it was 69 tackles in 2018, also with Tennessee. So he has both 2 of his best tackle seasons overall there, but that's a big jump from 69 to 100. So it's really about that position he's playing. I think that if he sticks around and they don't move a lot of things with the Titans, he could be right back up here again this next year. Again, we saw that role, produce a number 1 overall defensive back last year, a guy that's in the top 3 again this year. So keep an eye on Malcolm Butler. He's probably going to be a lot cheaper in drafts this upcoming year than he should be, just because he plays that corner position. And most people in fantasy football are looking for a box safety, they'll tell you, when they're looking for IDP players. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there are more than one ways to skin a cat. There's more than one ways to get points, as you can see here. Yeah, tackles are a good number, but pass deflections can get you a good chunk of change if you're good in coverage or if you get picked on a little bit. So Malcolm Butler coming in at number 3 this season. This is a guy that's going to be a little bit more fun to talk about now because his process, he's not really old. He's really just coming into his own, and that's going to be Jessie Bates. Jessie Bates with the Bengals, 16 games played this last year, 3rd season in the NFL, 21 impact plays, 78 solo tackles, 15 passes defended. Woo, 15 passes defended. That's some good stuff right there. 259.2 points in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring for my man Jessie Bates. So what do we like about Jessie Bates? We have 3 seasons in a row where Jessie Bates has gone over 100 tackles. That's incredible. We love that. What else do we like about Jessie Bates? His impact play numbers have also been increasing every year since he's been in the league. Let me double check this really quick, but I believe, yeah. So his first year was 2018. He had 11 impact plays. In 2019, he had 14. In this year, he had 21. Now, granted, a lot of those are passes defended, but Jessie Bates has also been good for 3 interceptions each year he's been in the league. So he does put up pretty consistent production. Like I said here with the pass deflection numbers, that was what took a big step forward for him this year. He has the high tackle floor, 100. Each year for the since coming in the league. Like I said, this year was his not even his highest. He had 109. He had 111 his rookie season, but this was his highest solo tackle number in his career. He had 78. So he's trending up as far as his play. He's trending up as far as his overall impact play production. Which, shortly backtracking, impact plays are any plays that are moving that are not tackles. Essentially, tackles are quarterback hits. They're going to either move the line of scrimmage backwards, or they're going to be a turnover opportunity, or they're going to not allow the line of scrimmage to move forwards, a la the pass deflection, which keeps it neutral, 0 yards gained. So it would be a negative script. So that's what I qualify impact plays as. So Jessie Bates getting the pass defended, getting 3 interceptions, which are turnovers. He did have 2 tackles for loss this year as well, which he's never had before. So Jessie Bates is trending the right direction. He's a safety I want on my team because he's extremely young. I mean, he's 23 years old right now, with 300 tackle seasons under his belt. He's got room to grow. So you got to love that about Jessie Bates in his 3rd season with the Bengals. That Bengals team, the main thing I would really be concerned about right now as a Bengals fan is the coach. It seems like there's a lot of talented pieces there. It seems like it's an organization that's ready to turn around. I just, I don't know if handing those keys over to Zach Taylor was really the wise decision to make for that franchise. So anyway, we will go ahead and move on down the list. The next defensive back we will talk about is DB number 5 on the season. Like I said, the old man himself, Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins, it's crazy. 33 years old, and he's putting up a top 5 season. Truly a testament to, the kind of work ethic that he has and the principles as a player that has to take to, be in that position to get into the postseason on a team. So good for him. 25 impact plays. That's the number I want you to think about. But really, when that's what his career has been. He's been an impact player. He does, 55% of his total points come from his tackles. He had a couple of sacks this year. He has a couple of sacks every single year. He has a high number of pass deflections every year. He's always getting a couple of interceptions every single year. 3 this year, 0 last year, but then an interception the year before, 2 the year before, 3, 2, 2, 3. Yeah, he's a busy boy out there. He does not mess around. He's not just there to tackle. He's not just there to play assignment football. He's there to, be an impact player and make plays on the ball. Also love career high tackles for loss. I'm sorry. Let me walk that back. Second highest career tackles for loss numbers. So he's lining up at the defensive line. He's getting into the backfield. He's getting these high leverage snaps that you like. Playing predominantly box safety, playing, a couple of hundred snaps, I believe is what I saw on the defensive line as a rusher. So he's playing this Jamal Adams type of football that, is really powerful, does some powerful things from the safety position for you. Finishes number 5, like I said, still only 91 tackles. He's never really been a monster tackle guy. He's only gotten over 100 one time in his career. But because of the fact that he does make the impact plays and he is an impact player, you can see how he can get up here like he did, 3 interceptions, the tackles for loss. Again, those numbers are high. The sacks are always there for him. So love that for him. We're a little concerned next year. He will be 34. Not everybody's ageless wonder. We got Drew Brees looking like he might retire. So if that's the situation and Drew Brees does retire, I don't know how many of these old veterans are going to want to hang out there or not. So we will just have to see how that goes. Sliding on down the list here, we have Jeremy Chinn, first rookie I've mentioned here on this series. We'll have a rookie in the next one on the defensive line, which will be next week. 16 games played, 251.4 points for him, 117 combined tackles. You love that from a rookie. He's already out there, basically leading his team in tackles. Only 15 impact plays, though. So this is what I want to point out for Jeremy Chinn. Well, this chart, if you're looking again on YouTube, it looks very colorful because he did have a lot of, touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns. That's a colorful stat if you're looking at the chart. Pass deflections, he had a handful of those. He had a lot of other stuff, but not a big number. 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. So it's very colorful, but it's not a big portion of his points. Most of his overall points, 75% in fact, came from tackles. So it might feel like he's an impact player because he had that monster week. I believe it was week 12 when he did have both those touchdowns. And it came, like I said on the Dynasty Nerd show, which I did earlier this week covering defensive backs as well. It felt like it was a lot. It felt like he had a much crazier season because that came at such a pivotal time in the season, week 8, when, we were week 8, 10, 12, somewhere right there where everything really mattered. We were all kind of, and this was a weird season. There was a lot of 7 and 6s, 8 and 7s, it was a crazy season. So you felt very validated and very hyper aware of the big game that Jeremy Chinn had. But like I said, he's not really up there in the impact plays. I do expect that number to go up though, because he is already basically 100 snap percent player, and that Panthers defense is young, but it's fast, and I think there will be more impact plays to go around this next year, and I don't think that there's any way that he's under 15 again. So he's got a super high floor, he's got a high ceiling. I think. To finish top 6 as a rookie, count me in. Love me some Jeremy Chinn. Going on down the list here, we got number 7, Justin Simmons coming back again. He was a top 10 guy last year. He also finishes defensive back 7, 77 tackles. He's not really a big behind the line of scrimmage guy. He does not get big tackle for loss numbers. He had 3 this year. He almost never has sacks. I think he has maybe 1 in his whole career. But what he does is he makes plays. He makes plays on the ball. via interceptions, which he has several every single season of his career. Let me double check this year. He had 5 this year, 4 last year, 3, 2, 2. So he's always a multi-interception guy. He didn't have as many pass deflections this year as he did last year. He had 15 last year, but he still came through with 9, which is a comfortable number from the safety position. You really would love to see it go to double digits, but we're fine with 9. We know he can get up in that area. He did have 3 tackles for. Am I looking at this correctly? 3 tackles for loss. He did, like I said, 3 tackles for loss this season. That's a big number for him. He's usually only good for 1 or 2. He had a 4 tackle for loss season, 2, 0, 2, and then 3. So that's right around his average. So you're not going to get that. But what you will get with him is a lot of solo tackles, and you're going to get plays on the ball in form of interceptions and pass deflections. And like I said, his pass deflections, he has a 15 pass deflection season under his belt. This number, 27 points from the pass deflection department, that could be higher and could have bumped him up the list even more. So again, circling back to the strong safety, box safety kind of argument, and I know he does play some strong safety as well, but if you're playing a free safety and they're good in coverage, they get pass deflections, they can make plays on the ball, they're going to compensate from the fact that they're not going to be 100 tackle guys. That being said, 96 total tackles still getting up there. So Justin Simmons is one of the better free safeties to own in IDP, and going forward he will be 27, getting up there a little bit in age, but again, I'm not, the safety position, these guys can play late into their careers pretty comfortably. So we will move on down the list. All right, this is the fun one. This is the chart that's going to look like nobody else's chart. Well, it'll look kind of like Malcolm Jenkins charts, but that is Jamal Adams. Look at all that green. This man went off for 9.5 sacks. That's 57 points. That is wild. Less than 50% of his point profile came from solo tackles. He still put up a career solo tackle, not career. He was second best career solo tackle pace of his career. He was like 4.7, I believe, per game. Let me double check that. I do have it here. Yeah, he averaged 4.9 solos a game in 2020. His previous career high was 5.3, and that was in 2018. So it wasn't even like his solo tackles were down. They were up compared to 2 of his seasons. He's still out here doing crazy things behind the line of scrimmage with 9.5 sacks, put up a career year in tackles for loss in his shortest, most abbreviated season of his career. He only played 12 games, and he put up career numbers in multiple categories. Jamal Adams is an absolute freak of nature. He's not human. You're getting 3, 4, 5 players. When Seattle traded for him, I believe it was 2 first-round picks, people thought they were crazy. But you can just see the impact that Jamal Adams has on the field. 1, in the way he plays. 2, in the way that people play around him. And, 3, just what he does on the field from the position that he's in. It's special. It's very unique what he's able to do. People want to knock him for being, bad in coverage, but that's not what he's being asked to do anymore. I mean, he has 7 and 12 and 6 pass deflection seasons behind him. He had 3 this year. People are realizing that he's able to rush the passer at an elite win rate percentage. And Pete Carroll turned him loose, and it rang up to the tune of 9.5 sacks, something that you're happy to get from any edge rusher. So to get it from a guy who's also going to put up, close to 5 solo tackles a game. I mean, Jamal Adams is the Travis Kelce of his position. Kind of like TJ Watt is the Travis Kelce of the defensive line position. These guys are just, if there's a tier, they're in a tier of their own. I'm going to actually try to pull something up here. Let me see if I got it. Impact play leaders. Here we go. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got some graphics that I've been making, but you can see here Jamal Adams is in the top of this list. These are all the top, I believe, like 20, 25. Anybody that had over 20 impact plays made this list. In 12 games, he is in the top 8, 10 conversation. So you're getting an elite asset. It's I don't know what else I have to say. Draft Jamal Adams. He's worth it. You can reach for him at defensive back. I don't think he's going to get worse. I know people called for him to regress the previous year. He didn't regress. So he's, some guys are the exception to the rule. He's the Tyreek Hill of defensive backs. Like, don't poo-poo him. Draft him. That's the answer. All right, we're going to move on down the list. We'll get you all out of here. Next on the list, number 9. This is one of my favorite players in the league right now, Marlon Humphrey. The cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens. Don't want to tell you that cornerbacks can't be productive. For your defensive back spot. This guy came through with a monster season, led the league in forced fumbles. He had 8 forced fumbles at 24 points. That was almost 10% of his overall score this season. Big solo tackle numbers. He had a couple of sacks, 2.5 sacks himself this season. 27 total impact plays, though. So when you look at this chart, again, if you're on YouTube, you're able to see, the tackles are a minimal amount. I think just barely over 60% of his points came from tackles. So 40% of his points came from other spots. Tackles for loss, he had a few. Quarterback hits, he had a handful. He had a safety this year, an interception. Plus he has the pass deflection numbers, 11 this season, big pass deflection numbers. He always has good pass deflection numbers. Leading league in forced fumbles. He's a playmaker. 27 impact plays. Career high 82 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, like I said, 11 pass deflections. He finished as a top 25 guy last year as well. He was defensive back 25 last year. He's defensive back 9 this season. He missed a game because of the COVID situation. So Marlon Humphreys, get him in Dynasty. I love him. He's young. He just signed that contract this year. They know what they're doing in Baltimore as far as drafting defensive players and corners. He's going to be an elite and productive asset for a long time moving forward. Moving down the list again, we're going to go to Kenny Moore, 10th overall finish this season, 4th season with the Indianapolis Colts, played 16 games, 244.5 points. Most of those coming, a good chunk of those coming from the tackle department, but he was also an impact player himself, 24 impact plays, high pass deflection numbers for him, 4 interceptions. Love to see that. He's making plays on the ball. Career high 68 solo tackles, 68 solos from a corner. That's good. That's what you're looking for. And that's, like I said, those are just the solos. The impact plays are there. Tackles for loss for a corner. He's got a handful of those. He had a couple of sacks. You love to see that. Kenny Moore is a guy that I didn't call. I called for a breakout for Khari Willis, but when I did call for that breakout, I said the only 2 guys that I'm really interested in from the defensive back position on the Colts are Khari Willis and Kenny Moore. I said those are the only guys I'm going to be drafting, and Kenny Moore came through with a big season. Khari Willis also had a nice season. I believe he finished defensive back 28 or 26, 28, something like that. But Kenny Moore is the one who really came through for you. Career high 13 pass deflections. Like I said, he's a guy you're gonna want to own. I mean, he's young, he's talented. These slot corners, that are playing, that have the ability to make plays on the ball. That's a position you want. You're going to be able to take these guys when other people are taking, some of these free safeties or even just some, box safeties. When that a guy is a playmaker, like Kenny Moore, you can take a guy like that maybe over who defensive back 12. We'll talk about Adrian Phillips, who's a very kind of like a boring kind of, just a tackler. So when you get when you're playing fantasy football too, it's not all just about it is about the points, but also when you're watching, you want to feel something. You want to feel emotionally connected to what's happening on the field. It's really, really hard to feel emotionally connected to an assisted tackle that, it takes place 7 yards down the field. It's really easy to feel emotionally involved on, a third and 1, and, your linebacker is across the line of scrimmage for a 3-yard loss. That's easy to be, and that's a big play in football. That's a big point swing in IDP 1, 2, 3. A tackle, they're so common. It's hard to get emotionally invested in them. But so you want to get impact players for your team from a fun standpoint of fantasy football. You also want to get them because obviously they can help you win. But just talking from a gamesmanship point of view, do you want to watch a guy make 10 tackles in a game, or you want to watch a guy make 3 tackles, break up a couple passes and, force a fumble? So you got to know who can actually do that to draft that player. Moving down the list to another guy who's a high impact player, Jabrill Peppers, one of the guys I really stomped my foot for, pounded the table for this last year coming into the season, had a smooth 50% of his points on solo tackles, 24 impact plays from Jabrill Peppers, a career high 91 tackles, career high 11 pass deflections, career high 8 tackles for loss. It was truly a breakout campaign for him. He even started the season off slow. I think he only scored 25 points in the first 4 games, but he went on a tear in the middle of the season where he scored on he's averaging 25 points for a 7-game streak. If you had him and you held on to him, I will say it was a little worrisome early in the season, but he really set the world on fire, coming back hot. It's his fourth season in the league with the New York Giants right now. 244.3 points he scored this year. And again, he is an impact player. He's progressing as a player. He's looking more like the dynamic player that he was in college. You've seen flashes of it on the field, but I think this year in New York, you really saw him get comfortable in his role, and we saw that whole New York Giants defense look good. He's an integral part of that. Blake Martinez, we had Bradbury, Leonard Williams, a lot of guys that people kind of cast off some other places, coming to the New York Giants and really turn that team into something defensively. So if you play IDP or you play fantasy football, there's not a lot offensively there right now. Saquon, but even that's a scary asset to own right now. But in IDP, there's a lot of hot guys right now up in New York. Jabrill Peppers being one of them. Blake Martinez, who we talked about last week with John Macri. Shout out Macri. Appreciate him coming on the show. He's a great linebacker, one of the top 5 guys basically every single year. And then Leonard Williams, we'll talk about him next week, maybe a little bit towards the end of the show, but he had a breakout campaign after basically me being left for dead by myself personally. But getting back to Peppers, career season or career highs in a lot of categories for him. And that was even banged up. He hurt his ankle. I believe it was week 2 or 3. So you really love to see that from Jabrill Peppers. He's a guy that basically he's discounted. He's like a discounted version of, I don't know if Derwin James is even in the conversation anymore. I think people are kind of coming around on him, but he's a discount version of Jamal Adams in a way, because he does have the impact plays, but he also does have the tackle numbers too. So if you play in a return league, he did catch some punt returns this year and got a few extra points that way. So you love to see that. And finishing out the defensive back ones for the season, we have Adrian Phillips. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you're getting the full effect here, because I'm pulling up all these graphics, which I have available for people over on the Patreon. But you see here, look at this chart. 67% of his points, 67.9. So 68% of his points came from solos. You have another 15% over here on assist. So, he had almost no impact plays. He had a few. He had some tackles for loss. He did have 2 interceptions and some pass deflection. But, this is a very boring chart with very minimal pieces, and there's small pieces of anything going on. Total impact plays for him was 13. So this is a way you can, gauge upside on a player. That's why, I think it's important to separate impact plays from the rest of your tackle scoring, basically. And you need to look at IDP fantasy football through this lens, because you can identify players with upside. Adrian Phillips, based on this chart, what I'm looking at here, isn't a player that has much upside. He's going to get me my tackles when he's on the field, but anybody's going to produce tackles when they're on the field. I want to know who's going to be playing high leverage snaps, rushing the passer, and I want to know who's going to be able to make plays on the ball. That's going to be pass deflections, interceptions, forced fumbles. That's going to be tackles for lost sacks. Quarterback hits are indicators of that, who's going behind the line of scrimmage. So when I look at a chart like Adrian Phillips and I see all this bland tackling, and then I look at a chart like Jabrill Peppers, where we got a lot more going on here. We got, and not just more big pieces of more too. That's going to be able to help me identify a player who is a playmaker, and I'm going to want on my team. Not throwing shade at Adrian Phillips. There is a place for, a guy on your team that is just a tackler. That's usually your IDP flex spot. I don't think anybody was excited to play Adrian Phillips this season. He had a couple of good games, but a lot of that is just the opportunity, and he was the guy that Bill Belichick trusted. I think whenever Kyle Duggar eventually ascends to this position that Adrian Phillips played this year, we're going to see probably this tackle floor similarly, but we might see some more plays in there, because he's a younger, more athletic player, athletic freak, honestly. In this second year, he could be in for a breakout campaign. So this is less of a Adrian Phillips tweet, I guess you could say. We're not on Twitter, but this chart should indicate to you that Kyle Duggar, or whatever safety it does win this job, when Adrian Phillips leaves, which I think he is there this year, but who knows what the situation will be. You could be looking at a player, if they are a playmaker, with the opportunity to push themselves up higher. So quickly, I'm going to, before we roll out of here, I'm just going to review the top with you. Y'all, I see there's some people in here. We're towards the end of the video. If you have any questions, hit me with them. I will do my best to answer on the spot. But here's your top 12 defensive backs. I'll read them back to y'all one more time if you're on the podcast. We got Budda Baker at number 1. Number 2 is Jordan Poyer. Number 3 was Malcolm Butler. Number 4 was Jessie Bates. Number 5 was Malcolm Jenkins. Number 6, Jeremy Chinn. Number 7 was Justin Simmons. Number 8 was Jamal Adams. Number 9 was Marlon Humphrey. Number 10 was Kenny Moore. 11, Jabrill Peppers. And 12 was Adrian Phillips. Now, quickly before we get out of here, I do want to read you off the guys who were the leaders in points per game, because that might give you a better idea, than just the end of season numbers, which is, a volume thing. So your points per game leaders, and these are in guys that actually, played a decent amount of games. There are a couple of guys that are just spiked on there because they played once or twice. But Jamal Adams had 20.6 points per game. The next guy down was Budda Baker, 18.6. He averaged points per game. Jordan Poyer, 17.6 or 17.1. Jeremy Chinn, 16.8. We had Malcolm Butler, 16.6. DJ Reed, who played about half the season for San Francisco, he was 16.6. There's a guy you might want to keep your eye on for the Niners. Marlon Humphrey, 16.4. So he was the 9th in points per game. Jabrill Peppers was 10 and 16.3. Jessie Bates was 16.2. Malcolm Jenkins, 15.9. Those are the top 12 points per game. And honestly, I'm going to give a little shout out here. Carl Willis was 15.7, number 13 in points per game. So that just gives you an idea of the guys who were points per game leaders versus, cumulative season leaders. Hopefully that gives you an idea of maybe some guys that weren't on that list to look for. But yeah, IDP Army, that's pretty much it for me. Don't have any comments or questions over here. Nobody's feeling sarcastic or wants to, grill me. So appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what I should be doing in the near future, because I'm finishing this series up, the Real Talk about defensive line. That's going to be next week. And once I get past that, I'm kind of open to suggestions. We have, we maybe do some Senior Bowl type stuff, maybe do some prospect stuff, but that's not really my world. I'm more in looking back at, dynasty and the players that kind of got us here and moving forward, spotting breakouts, that kind of thing. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I'll do some research on that. I appreciate you, IDP Army. Go subscribe to the Patreon if y'all want to support what Steve and I got going on over here. We are trying to build the brand. We're trying to help you all win your IDP fantasy football leagues with some style, with some grace, have some fun. But yeah, that's all for me tonight. I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good one. Till next week, IDP Army. I'm out.